You're like, you can go for it.
Hello and welcome to this very special session today on Commodity Ki Pathshala. And joining me in this discussion are our guests, Amit Sahita, Director Amit Sahita Finance Private Limited, Anil Ghilani, Head Passive Investment and Products at DSP Investment Managers Limited, Natin Shahi, Executive Director, Findoc Financial Services, and Kavita Shah, Vice President of NDDX. Those joining us, well, Manisha and Kapil have not been able to make it today to this discussion. Nonetheless, we look forward to a very interesting interaction with our esteemed panelists. And Kavita, I think I'll start with you. Whatever, since we are talking about Pathshala, we are trying to address the first-time investors, people who are looking to start investing across various asset classes. Whatever, it's commodity that leads, but not in India. In India, still, when you talk to a first-time investor, he is going to file application for an IPO of some unknown company rather than coming to the commodity market and dealing into something is well aware of, or maybe is using that commodity, is concerned about that market. He knows a lot about that market, and he wants to when he wants to enter, probably he has several questions in mind. Now, how are the exchanges like yours are going to address it?
I think Commodity Ki Pathshala is one such initiative where we bring about a confluence of set of participants catering to various needs of these, end participants who would get connected to the market. So that's precisely the reason we have all the market intermediaries and all the sets of participants, who will be sharing their views with respect to how they should be connecting, say, retail participants, the hedgers, the FPOs, and also say, we are also going up to the last leg. We're also connecting the primary producer directly to the exchange. It's currently, when you look at commodity markets, I think with the regulator being extremely robust and focused on the development at within the commodity markets, and specifically when we are talking about the government also, uh, the government is also giving a lot of impetus specifically to the agri sector, and that's where I think we are also working hand in hand with the government to ensure that they get to using market-driven tools to efficiently manage their commodity price risk. So that's where I think the exchanges are playing a very crucial role, offering a platform which not only brings about various sets of participants, but various investment mindsets that kind of bring about the kind of movement in commodities and make this complete asset class very, very attractive.
Definitely. So that is the challenge that we are really facing now. Coming to you, Anil, how do you really see the response to various, institutional initiatives, the pooled investments? What really do you think needs to be done, to mobilize more funds into this market, create for the liquidity and the broad basing really the segment?
It's a very good question, and I think broad basing this segment is the crucial part which all of us collectively have to do. One important thing to keep in mind is that structurally, if we look at the commodities derivative market, a large component of the people who are participants are producers or consumers who typically need to buy and sell the commodities in the market to keep their overall process ongoing or to hedge for protection against price volatility. So in that, if we broad base the participation through institutional investors like mutual funds, alternate investment, AIFs, or PMS products, it will help in deepening the market. Now, very interesting is that already today we as a institutional investor, pooled vehicle owners like a mutual fund and AIF, we are permitted. Regulator has been doing very positive steps, and we already have certain products where we can invest into commodity derivatives, which are currently, let's say, part of a small component of the overall fund's assets under management can be allocated to commodity derivatives. What we believe is that going forward, there would be the need for even larger number of such funds. There could be funds which are dedicated only for commodity related exposure. More number of commodities, for example, today there is no dedicated fund available for, let's say, just hypothetically any agri commodity. There is a one called gold ETF, but there is nothing called, let's say, on the NCDEX, AgriDex, or some such agri-based commodities. So these are the institutional investors' enhancements, which I believe will be very useful for bringing in more investors. One last point, as a retail investor, mutual funds have a very good channel already in place with the ease of investment. As small as 500 rupees, 1000 rupees, 5000 rupees, one can start investing. So this route can really be the important channel to broad base and enhance the participation. And it's useful for the investor because as a retail investor, you are always concerned about inflation. And one of the core element of inflation, which let's say the central bank also looks at, is the CPI, which includes a large component of food. So like a easy product, like which includes some element of a mixed basket, let's say, of agri products, food related items, and some base metals commodities, that can be a very good hedge for the individual investors portfolio as well.
So Kavita, let me come back to you. What are really the hindrances that you see? I mean, can we develop these products? Are we on the way? Is it still on the drawing board? What is the kind of status that we have? Because we keep discussing the very same issues. At least I can remember for last 20 years that I have been a business journalist. I have been actually listening to these very issues year after year.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep. I think it definitely would be rhetoric for you to hear the same things again. But I think, let me tell you, there has been a lot of progress that has happened from where we were and where we are at this point of time, at least since the time SEBI has taken over. And I think within a period of 3 years, there's been an enhancement in the product offering. There has been a lot of mobilization within the exchanges to bring about and add new products, complete product baskets. Like for when we are talking about, say, the soya bean product basket, we just added soybean meal to the entire product basket, thereby completing the complete product offering. So exchanges are working extensively to, kind of not only offer a wide range of products, various variants of the product, but also to look at developing, derivative forms of these products. So like a case in point is options in goods, where the exchange went extensively to collaborate with the regulator, and regulator supported their initiative of familiarizing FPOs to participate on the exchange by using options in goods, by subsidizing the premium amount through regulatory fees. So this, I think, these kind of initiatives to educate the end users and participants will definitely help. As far as what Anil clearly said right now with respect to say ETFs, I think ETFs are the next development which we are as an exchange also really eagerly looking forward to be offered to say the retail participants, and mutual funds would play a very important role in mobilizing retail participation onto the commodity derivative piece. So I think these are, and with all these new things coming in place, with the new set of participants now being permitted, I think these all these activities which have stalled over for say the last decade will now really catch up steam.
Let me bring in Amit Sahita on this. Amit, what kind of appetite do you really see in the market for these products? Is it that there is a ready-made market and people are just waiting for the right product and they will lap it up, or do we need to do more in terms of educating people, in terms of telling them how does it really fit into their financial planning, their own goals, etc.
So I think the retail investor, the common retail investor, is now more and more educated about asset allocation. Asset allocation in terms of equities and debt, and now a small portion in commodities. So more and more financial planners, more and more brokers will recommend a 5 to 7 to 10% commodity exposure, depending on the equity exposure and the debt exposure of the investor. We are already seeing a huge boom in equities, and so that forms a limited avenue for fresh investments. We've already seen that yields in the bond markets are at record lows. So commodities forms the next logical investment avenue for all retail investors. Yes, a lot needs to be done in facilitating the process. As Anil said, ETFs could be the next channel, and a lot of education and hand-holding methodologies need to be applied. But I definitely see that in the future, in the next 4, 5, 10 years, we will have more retail participation in the portfolio investment side, not the value chain participants, but in the portfolio investor investing in commodities to benefit from diversification and better risk adjusted returns.
That's correct. So at this point, let me bring Nitin Shahi in here. Nitin, how do you really see, the commodity derivatives, commodity products fitting into the investment requirement of various segments of participants?
Good morning, everybody. So, derivative markets are primarily used by almost all set of participants. And when we specifically talk of participants who are into physical market, who actually trade physical markets, so we can categorize them into physical traders, wherein they come here to hedge their commodities. They see it as an additional channel for delivering, and with the sort of counterparty guarantees that are available in derivative markets, they are feeling it a lot more comfortable. And when I visit physical markets, mandis, almost every junction I feel and I see that all the traders who are related to physical market, they refer to the derivative market or the NCDX prices for giving the quote to us. So that way it has evolved itself into a very good platform. And similarly, the evolution, I feel there will be a lot of derivative traders who come to the stock to the derivative market for the purpose of trading only, wherein you can come here and see products like arbitrage products, or maybe agri commodities specifically being cyclical or seasonal in nature. You form a lot of trend, which also attract people who are into trend trading. all sort of people who are coming up. This agri commodity markets may give them, or rather gives them, a lot of space to trade and earn. Then now the new asset classes, like now commodity is now being considered as an asset class, when the regulators have allowed them to come up with different mutual funds and AAFs. So when the investors or HNIs will find agri commodity AIFs or mutual funds, specifically, as Anilji has said, or Amirji has said, and I definitely feel that the regulator is also feeling the urge of using these platforms for the development of the commodities market, specifically the agri commodities market. And the way the markets are developing, the agri commodity markets are developing, I feel there is a hell lot of space available for all these products to be offered to the clients or to the investors. This market is again, LCDX have come up with the index trading, AgriDex they have launched. So that is also a good step in the same domain what we are talking of, like mutual funds that they need to have some indices that can be a base for everyone to understand how we are performing, how we are growing. And AgriDex in the agri domain specifically will help a lot for the investors and HNIs to compare these sort of returns.
You have raised some very good questions, and I was back to my MBA and CFA classes, because we used to answer these very questions. To what extent is commodity an asset class, and how does it really fit into your life? Now there are two different set of challenges, I think, Kavita, and you can take it forward and clarify the issues here. One is getting more and more, institutional money going forward, which is kind of stable, and that provides the kind of volume to the segment. And second is getting better retail HNI participation in that broad basis the market, and makes it brings it on a par with the global standards of commodity investing. So how do you really see it today in India? You did talk about this kind of regulatory preparations and kind of a roadmap ahead. How will you take this issue forward?
So I completely agree with you when you say institutional participation is, one of the largest when you talk about international markets on the commodity derivative piece. And India, for that matter, it's at a very nascent stage of these institutions really analyzing the commodity derivative piece. And I think beyond bullion segment, they haven't really had much experience. While they trade slowly, in this segment, Pradeep, I think they are very strongly, and clearly looking into this particular piece to a large extent. And as Amit, clearly pointed out that, more than the mutual funds, it's going to be the PMS and the structured or the tailor-made bespoke products, which are going to attract a lot of HNI participation. As far as retail is concerned, like I said, they are looking at a lot of confidence building, or a vehicle which kind of brings in a lot of confidence through which they could participate in a new asset class, which comes in with the mutual funds or any of these structured institutional participants, where they have very strong research, they have very strong and stable, narrative that they would be sharing with these set of audience. Like Anil mentioned, inflation could be one of these themes that could be really looked at, right? And say a particular product basket could be one particular theme that could be looked at. And as far as the exchanges are concerned, exchanges are working very closely with all the institutional participants, whether it is the category 3 AIFs, whether it is the mutual funds, or whether it is the PMS. We're working very, very closely with them to bring in their comfort as well on this particular asset class. While they see a lot of value in it, they're just treating a little slow, but I'm sure they'll soon warm up to this opportunity.
Correct. So, bullion is something that we are all kind of aware of and comfortable with. It is when it comes to, adding other commodities that there is really an issue. Now, let me, on this, get back to Anil. What is the core basic structure of a multi-asset fund offering commodity derivatives, and what are the issues around it? If you could, give us some details.
Sure, very good point. I think before that, I will just give a small analogy, which many of our users and all of us in India, we say ना कि उस cricket हमारा पहला धर्म है, मतलब एक धर्म जो सबको connect करता है. So when we talk about cricket, if there is a good team, it's defined as a nice blend of good batsmen, couple of good bowlers. Each of them have to be a first-class fielder and a good wicket keeper. So likewise, even in investing your funds or investing your money, if you are not a tactical allocator or you are not a professional fund manager, it's best that you have a portfolio that is well diversified across different asset classes, which have less correlation with each other. So what very often one can do is create a sort of what we call as a permanent portfolio, which can be a multi-asset class offering, which will include commodities as one important element and other elements like equities, fixed income, some foreign allocation, global allocation, and create a kind of a good mix of these asset classes. From our local current regulatory perspective, there is already a enabler by the SEBI for launching mutual funds which are multi-asset funds, and it just indicates that each asset class should have minimum 10% allocation. So let's say one could have a very good blended product. Commodities will be, let's say, about 10 to 20% of that particular portfolio, and it can be a very good way to get investors to get a flavor of the commodity side, while at the same time ensuring that there is a good diversified portfolio. What I mean by the permanent portfolio is that then the investor does not need to really very closely keep tracking different asset classes. कि अच्छा अभी इक्विटी मार्केट में तेजी है तो थोड़ा प्रॉफिट बुक करके मैं थोड़ा सा ज्यादा एक्सपोजर बॉन्ड में ले लूं, या अभी उसमें से थोड़ा should I do some commodity related exposure. Within that, inflation is giving significant now concern, so maybe I will allocate more within commodity to agri commodities. Don't worry about all of those things. For that, we are there as a professional portfolio manager. You come as a retail investor, park your some small allocation of, let's say, your monthly income into this multi-asset portfolio. So that is the very unique benefit which it offers. And since you mentioned a little bit, I will go into technical aspect about the taxation part also. It's very very convenient and very easy, rather than worrying about the taxation of each individual asset class. This entire one product, one fund will be there in the portfolio, and it will be taxed like any other debt or any non-equity mutual fund. Like, in terms of you get indexation if you hold for long term, and long term tax will be 20%, and short term will be 30% taxation, assuming you are in the highest tax bracket. So to summarize in just one line, if you are a retail investor, you are not professionally qualified or professionally advised to take tactical calls within an asset class, this kind of portfolio, like what we call as a permanent portfolio or a winning cricket team kind of approach, could be the best way to come and ensure that you have good exposure across commodities as well as other asset classes like equity, bonds, and global markets.
Okay. So just one more question before we talk about how these funds really work. Do you also get to tweak the weightage, or do you kind of, when you said one doesn't need to time the market, but will the fund be timing, and if not necessarily timing, at least kind of balancing the allocation when there's a boom in suppose in commodities, and commodity weightage has gone up in the fund automatically because where the price is going up, and maybe on the other side prices of equity is going down. Do you really rebalance it so as to get optimal returns?
That's a very good point. And yes, as I mentioned, structurally, as per the SEBI requirements, each asset class should have minimum 10% at all points of time. So given that construct, one can't go below that floor or threshold of 10%. But within that, then typically there would be a band. Let's say, for example, commodities can be, let's say, between 10 to 25%. Let's say equities can be between just I'm saying hypothetically, I'm not taking a particular fund and explaining as a product feature, but as a general example, let's say equities could have a range between, let's say, 35 to 45. Bonds could have a range between 25 to 35, and within that, then based on the, as you very rightly said, judgment of the portfolio manager, or based on certain rule-based quantitative formula, that if, let's say, equity markets are appearing between this range of valuation, or if bonds are in this range of the yield curve, then definitely the allocation can keep changing within those bands, which will ensure that for the retail investor, they don't need to do this churn, incur the cost of the churn, as well as book gains or losses, and take care of the tax for that. It's within this mutual fund portfolio itself that the churn is happening, and the investor is getting the well diversified, balanced allocation for their investment.
Yeah, because in equities we do have dynamic funds, we have balanced advantage funds and all that really keep churning their portfolio between debt and equity, so that the retail investor or HNI investor, or even putting his money into these products, doesn't really need to bother about timing the market. Now, let me bring Amit Sahita in on this. Amit, looking at this product from an investor's perspective, what are your views?
As an investor, or let's say as a larger set of participants, I want to draw from two success stories in India in the last couple of decades. The one biggest success story is dematerialization and demat accounts. We now have more than 5 crore unique investors holding demat accounts. If you compare that to the number of investors having commodity demat accounts, the number is shockingly low. It is less than 8,000. So that part of the piece can be used dynamically by commodity markets or present commodity infrastructure to leverage upon the huge reach of our DPs, which are CDSL and NSDL, or depositories. If we can introduce more demat accounts and more a culture of holding demat commodities, that will leverage on the success of dematerialization. And the second huge success story is mutual funds, of course. So mutual fund AUM has grown from 2 lakh crores in 2 decades back to 30 lakh crore crossing now. So that's another leverage. If we can leverage these two pieces in the commodity markets also, then more and more retail investors can be enthused. Currently, if you look at budget 2021, there is a huge push for WDRA. WDRA, the finance minister has introduced the idea that we should have a WDRA warehouse at each block or taluka level. That is going to be a marquee change, because today we have only 1,750 WDRA recognized warehouses in India. Only 6% of all warehousing in India happens under WDRA. That means that the regulated warehouses are only 6%. Imagine what has happened in the equity markets post-SEBI. Imagine what is happening in the development space post-RERA. And this is the equivalent of that. We are bringing in more and more agri-commodities warehousing space within the WDRA reach. That will make more and more people confident within the smaller spaces in India to go to these well-regulated warehouses and store their commodities there. These WDRA warehouses are going to be empowered to issue e-receipts, ENWRs. So we are going to get out of the space of physical receipts and move to electronic receipts. Soon, the quantum of electronic receipts will explode to, my senses, in the next 5 years, at least 5x or 8x of what it is at present. Once we have those kind of mechanisms, when the value chain participant, the farmer, the FPO, the joint liability group that the farmers form to, let's say, make a bigger aggregator, they start depositing more and more commodities, physical commodities, within these WDRA warehouses. That is going to increase the investable pool. Today, for a retail participant to, let's say, invest, or let's say even for a mutual fund to invest in an X commodity, there is a very limited pool. If that pool goes up 5 to 8 times, that institutional participant gets more choices that he can exercise. Let's assuming that you have only Reliance shares in DMAT and you don't have ITC shares or you don't have L&T shares. That is what we are doing today. We are going to create an infrastructure in the next 5 years, thanks to the finance minister's proposals, which increases the investable pool, thereby enthusing more institutional participants, thereby bringing in more confidence in the retail investor with more choices. You are increasing the choices that an investor can make.
That's very true. And the issue on WDRA that you brought in, Amit, that was a very, very important point, because the next issue that really comes to my mind is, the kind of, when you look at commodities market in terms of technological advancement, not only in the infrastructure, but also the way people are accessing it. These days, most people are really trading through their mobile phones, or then you also have a set of investors or traders rather, who are into algo trades, high frequency trading. So let me bring Nitin Shahi back on this. Nitin, so we have kind of reached a market where HFT, high frequency trading, or algo are the buzzwords, and more people are moving in that direction. Why we did talk about the serious money, the long-term money in detail, there is a lot of liquidity, or maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the bulk of liquidity in financial markets in general, has moved to trading, and that too, machine trading. Where do you really see the commodity markets fitting into this bigger picture?
So you are very right saying that. And two things that are buzzing in financial domain: one is options, and second is algo trading. And by chance, we have entered into an era where both the things have entered into commodity space as well. The options, with the invent of options and the agri buzz, and the algo trading, exchanges have also allowed the members and the intermediaries to participate through algo trading platforms, and that is going to help a lot. I see more than 50 to 60% volumes coming from algos, incoming one to 1.5 year. There are a lot of quant traders that I have seen who have started looking out for the commodity data, even from the agri domain as well. And I'm very sure that even my quant traders have asked for this quant data from the exchanges. We've also subscribed for that. So index trading, yes, will also help in developing this algo domain. Agri-dex, trading of basket of agri-dex with the components has also started. So I am very sure that this algo domain is gonna rule this market, agri commodity markets as well, and the commodity markets as well. Same in it. It is as good as international market. People are taking cues from international market to trade in Indian markets, specifically into commodity derivatives. Again, last time I also mentioned that it is more of cyclical and seasonal in nature. So trends are formed. The trends formed are more stronger in nature vis-a-vis other derivative options that are available. So there is no doubt that algo is gonna rule this market very soon.
That's correct. So now let me ask this question to Kavita. How are we really positioned, when it comes to commodities? Because exchanges play a pivotal role, so to say, in high frequency trading.
So, as far as the exchanges are concerned, we are extremely working very closely with all these high frequency, outfits that are offering this particular setup. We are see, the job of the exchange is to ensure that depth in the market increases. There is more participation, which will kind of also bring in these high frequency traders that would kind of look at this opportunity and create algos around them. So the exchange is working with these market participants, whether it is even the retail participants, whether it is the retail participants or any set of participants. So the idea is to offer a wide set of basket of products. The idea is to offer, to ensure more and more participants come on board, for which these market intermediaries are extremely important, whether it is the brokers who are either channelizing the hedgers onto a platform, whether it is the brokers who are through their distribution setups connected with the retail clients. So we are working very closely with them to kind of, what you say is, bridging the knowledge gap. To bridge the knowledge gap, we are working very closely with them. And clearly, what Anil, kind of brought out very nicely with this analog, that retail is definitely now looking at a portfolio that they do not need to manage and minutely look at when it is spread out across asset classes. And that's precisely what is the core of commodity derivatives when we are promoting it and when we are communicating to, say, the retail set of audience.
That's correct. And, again, this is very important that while 2020 has become extremely popular and probably test matches are passé, when it comes to investing, it's mandatory that, the large number of investors or the largest pool of investors actually should come through the institutional route and should be investing for long term if they really want to, stick to this market and not just burn their fingers and go away. So that education will also be very important. One more question here. When we're talking about, machine trading, Kavita, what is the kind of, depth that we have across segments? Maybe only a few segments world over, if you could kind of throw in a perspective, are really ready for very high frequency trading, because the most important thing is liquidity here.
You're right. You're absolutely right when you make that comment. But I think within those segments as well, and this is now going on to the other segments as well, as in the other set of commodities as well. So largely, I mean, if I talk about agri, it's largely oil and oilseeds. When we talk about say the other set of commodities, it's largely, say, the bullion segment or the energy segment, which has been kind of bringing about, has been coming to the limelight to really attract HFT. However, I feel it is a lot to do. The onus to a certain extent also lies with the market intermediaries to identify the opportunity and to bring in the liquidity, because the job of the exchange is to offer the products, offer an environment where all these set of participants can meet and trade, have a fair price discovery, which I think the exchanges under the current regulated regime and even before, now with more robust regulation and robust regulator on board, also kind of brings in a lot of confidence amongst the institutions to really kind of come in and infuse that kind of liquidity that this segment really needs to move to the next level. Which is where, say, the equity markets have, kind of scaled up, which is where, the other set of asset classes, even when we look at currency, has scaled up. So India, for that matter, is slow on that front. But now I think we are at the cusp of moving on to the next stage.
Yes, I think Anil should be answering that question. What is the way forward in terms of product evolution? What is really, the focus area for players like you now?
From the point of view of product innovation, I believe that all the regulatory mechanism is in place. Two things I would say are crucial now. Point number one, enhance the awareness and the knowledge for investors with various initiatives and all players in the broader ecosystem, like all of us today here on this show, like people like yourselves, as large and responsible media houses, exchanges, and investor protection platforms like Kavita and NCDEX. So collectively, all of us need to ensure that the retail investor understands that whatever was their old time issues, commodity trading has been there for like decades, and for a very small patch, people don't have the realization that now things have changed so much. It's evolved so well with such a robust, uh, you know, regulatory framework or investor protection in place. Once that is done, we will see more and more product innovation. For example, new ETFs on individual commodities. Like I mentioned, today there is an ETF in India only on gold ETF. But world over, there are so many other ETFs on single commodities. So we could very well have similar type of products. Let's say silver ETF, crude oil ETF. We could have a certain ETF on a basket of products like let's say Agri ETF, or we could even have a combination like we spoke earlier about like a multi-asset class kind of a product. So I'll just take one example about global markets and India. Very often we speak about that we do have a tendency that in many areas we gradually align ourselves to what we see in the US markets, financial world. So today, if you see the derivatives market globally, we have a large component of commodities. Approximately last I remember number was some 23% commodities and about 48% equities, followed by then currency and interest rates. So if you look at overall derivatives, let's say 100 is being traded, leaving out currency, interest rate, equities, for 24 rupees is commodity derivative. This I'm seeing in global markets. What we see in India today, Kavita madam will maybe have better exact numbers. This is might be some data points which I have quoted, that if we compare similar 100 rupee of F&O trading activity, we have about 91 rupees in equities and just 3.5 rupees, let's say about 4% is into the commodities. So we have a huge catch up to do. I mean, in terms of the comparable numbers from global market perspective, and this kind of enhanced product innovation, let's say further structures can be created, specialized structures which would find investor interest, like products having arbitrage or cash and carry strategies, products having like a calendar spread trading or pair trades. So some of these type of things will gradually enhance the participation and make sure that there is a good increase in the product range which is available for investors for the participation in commodities market.
That's correct. And also, Anil, you made a very important point. Awareness makes a lot of difference, because we do have this kind of maybe an inverted pyramid in India when it comes to asset location. But like you mentioned, platforms like ours, CNBC, Awaaz channels that we run, make a lot of difference, because I'll tell you, in the previous cycle, I had seen investors selling out when markets were down, and then again trying to come back to market when they were hitting new highs. But now our investors have really matured, and I think that's the time when we can introduce new products. We can really tell them how debt is an important component of your overall portfolio. Commodities can play a very, very important role and optimize your returns, especially across ups and downs in economic and business cycle. So let's start wrapping up this discussion at this point now. Nitin, let me come back to you. The important points that Anil just mentioned. It's not only awareness, but also the initiatives, the enabling steps taken by the regulators and the government. You see, even if you look at the current budget, a lot of emphasis has been put on, developing the agri infrastructure in particular and commodities in general. What's your view on this, and what more do you think needs to be done?
So the most important thing I feel is the knowledge part that has to be imparted to the investors for the development of this agri commodity market. The basic thing that I think is it is very easy for anybody to understand the commodities in comparison to other asset classes, because we all are the actual users of all those commodities, and there should be definitely be something that has to be done by all the intermediaries, by all the regulators to guide the investors and the participants of the market to make sure that this is a good investment vehicle. Things that have done that are being done by government and that has to be promoted very well, like FPOs. In the recent budget, when it was announced 10,000 more FPOs are to come up in the industry, in the economy, that definitely supports all the farmers, the value chain that can add to n number of people who are the participants of physical markets, not only derivative market. That will also evolve derivative market, no doubt, but that has to be stressed and laid out very well. That the implementation of all those FPOs is done very well. It should not be segregated at one particular area of the economy or the country. That may actually help this Atmanirbharta of India when we talk of the farm domain or the agricultural domain. Then, when the finance minister announces MSP of 1,05,000 crores, 1,05,000 lakh crores, that has to be used and given to all those farm domain agricultural participants. While doing that, you need to specifically endorse how this agri derivatives can help them secure their future. It is very easy for all of them to make it very easily understandable that this particular domain or this particular agri commodity domain can help them, give them a proper price hedging mechanism or a price discovery mechanism that can help them for lifelong.
Okay, that's a valid point, but isn't it, that people are not really asking for the right market-driven price here or the price fluctuation? The current issue which is being debated in the political sphere is actually, the price increase every year, maybe. So, okay, I completely agree with you that, commodity products, derivative products can serve the farming community better, and there is a requirement in a whole host of sectors, except maybe for those few commodities which we keep talking about in our political debates, and not really at a platform like this. So just to clarify the point, let's move forward. And before we come to our concluding remarks from various participants, there is a question from Shan Sharma here, and this I think will go to Kavita. The question is, why don't NCDX launch one back commodity futures for retail participants and small farmers?
That's a good question, though I'm not very clear what is intended here. I think what they are trying to, is trying to be communicated is that the size of the contract needs to be smaller for retail participants or small farmers to participate, right? That's where I probably kind of understand this. So as far as retail participation is concerned, adhering to what the regulator has in mind in terms of ensuring that there is a legitimate participation, we need to ensure that we cannot have multiple contracts of one particular commodity of various sizes. That's something which is as part of regulation, as part of communication from the regulator. The current set of lot sizes that we have on our contracts are commensurating with the kind of deposits or the deliveries that we have on our platform. As far as small farmers or retail participants are concerned, retail primarily does not kind of look at individual products per se. And for retail, I think agri-dex or any kind of index funds are the best to kind of look at a complete diversification that they want on their portfolio, and having agri as one of the components. Also, for say the small farmers, I think it is better that the small farmers come through a collective, which is an FPO, and as in an FPO has the wherewithal of actually kind of looking at their hedging requirements with a better kind of knack of the market and connect with the market. And hence, I think instead of going granular, we've gone in with a collective approach in terms of an institution and association, which will kind of also take care of the interest of the farmers, the small farmers, and come up as an institution representative on the exchange. So that's how I think we are approaching this whole, kind of. I think I've answered my question with respect to as to why we are not coming out with a product for specifically for very, very small farmers. However, nothing stops them from coming onto our platform through a collective.
So, Anil, you want to comment on this?
Yes, I think I get the point Kavita is saying is correct, that having a very segmented type of product offering could be very challenging. So I believe that this could be a better approach. There can't be a separate, instrument or a separate derivative contract for small farmers or specific for retail. But I think one should not look at it that way. There is no issues, even if like a pooled vehicle kind of approach can give you that access. So I think I completely agree with what Kavita outlined.
Okay, so let's start one final comment from each participant, और आप लोग थोड़ी हिंदी में भी बात करेंगे तो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग हमारी बात समझ पाएंगे. आपके साथ शुरू करते हैं.
Sorry.
अनिल, अगर आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you spoke with Nitin, and my mistake. Yeah. हाँ जी, so मैं बहुत सिंपल, मैंने जैसे स्टार्टिंग में भी कहा कि बहुत बार है ना ये टाइप की डिस्कशन बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाते हैं. तो and as we have the name like commodities की पाठशाला, तो पाठशाला क्या होता है सर? मतलब like जैसे अपन हर कोई बचपन से सीखते हैं, हर चीज अपन लर्निंग होती है, तो उसमें कभी अपन ये नहीं सोचते हैं कि क्या कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज अपने को सिखा दी जाती है. तो एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज मैं हाईलाइट करना चाहूंगा सर कि बहुत बार हम कुछ चीजें जो जानते हैं अच्छी तरह से, जो हमने सीखी है, जो हमने देखी है, हमने एक्सपीरियंस की है, पर हम उसे बहुत बार भूल जाते हैं. तो बहुत बार जैसे कि हम सोचते हैं कि हाँ भाई कमोडिटी इंपॉर्टेंट, डाइवर्सिफिकेशन, इन्फ्लेशन रोज अपन देखते हैं उसके बारे में, तो उससे मेरी लाइफ में क्या इम्पैक्ट हो रहा है और वो इम्पैक्ट को मैं कैसे इन्वेस्टमेंट के माध्यम से उसे मैं मीट कर सकता हूँ, ये चीजें बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है. तो मेरा एक सिंपल पॉइंट ये रहेगा कि जिस हिसाब से हम ये अगर एक मान के चले कि हमें इन्फ्लेशन को मीट करना है, हमें हमारा ओवरऑल इन्वेस्टमेंट पोर्टफोलियो अच्छे से संभाल के रखना है, जिससे कि हम एक परमानेंट पोर्टफोलियो या एक विनिंग क्रिकेट टीम जैसा एक इन्वेस्टमेंट पोर्टफोलियो बना के रखे, तो उसके लिए एक बहुत जरूरी एसेट एलोकेशन कंपोनेंट जो है हमारा कमोडिटीज में एलोकेशन डेफिनेटली होना चाहिए. इक्विटीज, बॉन्ड्स और ग्लोबल मार्केट्स और कमोडिटीज, ये 4 एलोकेशन करके हम आगे चले तो ये बहुत ही बेहतर रहेगा.
Correct. Amit Sahita, I think you wanted to add something to our discussion. You can add to that point. Also, if you want to conclude the discussion, how would you really approach it? और आपका भी हिंदी में बोलने के लिए स्वागत है, अगर आप चाहे तो.
Sure. शान ने अभी एक सवाल पूछा था कि हम एक छोटा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट क्यों इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं करते हैं अपने एनसीडीएक्स के प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे। तो इस बात का ये रीजन है कि जो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स होते हैं वो डिलीवरीज में कंक्लूड होते हैं। एक्सपायरी पे हर एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट डिलीवरी में एंड होता है, और वो एक लॉट साइज के लिए जरूरी होता है, क्योंकि वेयर हाउस में जो स्टोर किया जाता है वो है 10 मेट्रिक टन का एक पर्टिकुलर लॉट। तो आप चने का एग्जांपल लेंगे तो चने में 10 मेट्रिक टन का एक लॉट और दूसरा लॉट उससे थोड़ी दूरी पे रखा जाता है वेयर हाउस में, वो जो दूसरा 10 मेट्रिक टन का लॉट, चाहे वो चना हो या गेहूं हो या आरएम सीड हो या सोयाबीन हो। अगर हम एक एक बैग का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट रखेंगे, एक बैग का, तो उससे स्टोरिंग करने में बहुत ही दिक्कत आ जाएगी, बहुत ही महंगा हो जाएगा स्टोर करना, और कॉस्ट कमोडिटीज में एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर होता है। ग्रेड के हिसाब से अलग अलग लॉट अलग अलग छान के रखे जाते हैं। इसका कारण है कि हम 10 मेट्रिक टन से छोटे कॉन्ट्रैक्ट रखना वायबल नहीं है, पर फिर भी एनसीडीएक्स ने बहुत ही बढ़िया काम किया है। उसने गुआर, गम, गुआर सीड, कैस्टर जैसी कमोडिटीज में 5 मेट्रिक टन का लॉट बना के, जो कि बहुत ही छोटे निवेशक हैं, उनके लिए सहूलत की है कि वो भी पार्टिसिपेट कर सकें। मैं एक आखिरी पॉइंट कहना चाहता हूं कि हमने कई पार्टिसिपेंट्स ने कहा कि एजुकेशन एक बहुत बड़ा फैक्टर है। मीडिया हाउसेस और एनसीडीएक्स की बहुत रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है कि हम मिलके इन्वेस्टर्स को एजुकेट करें। मैं एक और पॉइंट कहना चाहूंगा कि हमें एक प्लेटफॉर्म बनाना चाहिए कि हमारे रेगुलेटर्स, सेबी, डब्ल्यूडीआरए, एक्सचेंजेस, एनसीडीएक्स, एमसीएक्स, उनके जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं जैसे कि क्लियरिंग कॉर्पोरेशन, एनसीसीएल और सीसीआरएफ, एमसीएक्स, सीसीएल, और जो उनके दूसरे पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं एनईआरएल और सीसीआरएल, एक प्लेटफॉर्म बनाए जहां की रेगुलर डायलॉग हो सके कि कहाँ क्या इशू आ रहा है हमारे कमोडिटी स्पेस में वॉल्यूम्स और पार्टिसिपेंट्स बढ़ाने के लिए। हम अभी क्या हो रहा है कि रेगुलेटर अपना कुछ कहता है कि हम ये रूल इंट्रोड्यूस करने की चाह कर रहे हैं, फिर पार्टिसिपेंट्स रिस्पॉन्ड करते हैं कि ये दिक्कतें आ सकती है या तो ये सहूलतें आ सकती है, पर कंटिन्यूअस डायलॉग नहीं हो पा रहा है। एक प्लेटफॉर्म बनाया जाए कि उसमें इंटरमीडियरीज भी पार्टिसिपेट कर सके और रेगुलरली अपने व्यूज इन सभी संस्थाओं का ले। मीडिया भी उसमें पार्टिसिपेंट हो सकता है, और अगर ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म बनाया जाएगा तो इंटरैक्शन और जो इनोवेशंस आएंगे उसका ज्यादा से ज्यादा फायदा मार्केट को मिलेगा।
बिल्कुल सही बात है। नितिन शाही, आपकी राय?
मैं कुछ क्यूज लूंगा, जैसे एक तो कविता जी से कि जितने भी मार्केट पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं उनकी जिम्मेवारी है कि लिक्विडिटी को लेके आया जाए। तो ये बिल्कुल इनकी सही बात है कि ये पार्टिसिपेंट्स की ही जिम्मेवारी है कि लिक्विडिटी को ज्यादा से ज्यादा लेके आया जाए, और उसी डोमेन में जितने इंटरमीडियरीज हैं उनको उतनी ही अच्छी प्रोबेबिलिटी मिलती है कि बाजार में आकर के, अगर मार्केट लिक्विड नहीं है तो कई प्रोबेबिलिटीज हैं कि हम उसमें आकर के अपने पार्टिसिपेशन से एक तो बाजार की सहायता की जा सकती है और दूसरा साथ ही साथ कुछ उसमें से ट्रेडिंग प्रॉफिट्स कमाए जा सकते हैं। और दूसरा, जैसे अभी पहले एक पॉइंट रेज किया, मैंने किया, अमित जी भी कह रहे हैं कि ऐसा एक प्लेटफॉर्म होना चाहिए। जरूरी है कि ऐसा एक प्लेटफॉर्म हो जहां पर हम जितने भी लोग हैं और उनको मैक्सिमम अपन उनका बेनिफिट लिया जा सके, कि हम उनको एजुकेट कर सकें। बिकॉज जब तक एजुकेशन नहीं होगी स्पेसिफिकली एग्री डोमेन में, वॉल्यूम्स जल्दी नहीं बढ़ पाएंगे। और जितने, अगर हम बाजार में जाते हैं, मंडी में जाते हैं, इतने लोग पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं जो कि मंडी में रोज ट्रेड कर रहे हैं, छोटे से छोटा पार्टिसिपेंट है, बड़ा पार्टिसिपेंट है, वो बट ट्रेड स्क्रीन पे देखता भी है बट ट्रेड नहीं कर पाता है। उसको कैसे लेके आया जा सकता है, उसके ऊपर मिलकर कोई एक राय होनी बहुत जरूरी है, और उस पर लगातार उससे बातचीत होगी तो डेफिनेटली वो सिस्टम में आएगा। तीसरा, अनिल जी का जो पॉइंट है कि हमें एक बास्केट बनाना चाहिए, होना चाहिए, एग्रीडेक्स उसमें एक पहल है और एक बेंचमार्क बन जाएगा आने वाले टाइम में जितने भी अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स हैं उनको, उनके लिए। एंड डेफिनेटली इसको जब हम कहते हैं कि इट इज अ नेचुरल हेज टू इन्फ्लेशन, तो इस चीज का हमें डेफिनेटली फायदा है कि अगर हम कमोडिटी मार्केट्स में पार्टिसिपेट करें और उनके ऊपर कोई अच्छे प्रोडक्ट्स लेकर के आए, भले वो कैश एंड कैरी हो सकता है, पेयर होता है। कई बार मैं जब भी किसी ऐसी मार्केट में होता हूँ या ऐसे किसी प्रोग्राम में होता हूँ, मैं आमतौर पे एक बात जरूर शेयर करता होता हूँ कि दो कंपनीज का तो आपस में पेयर ट्रेड कर लेते हैं लोग, जो कि बिल्कुल ही उनकी बैलेंस शीट्स डिफरेंट है, उनकी मैनेजमेंट डिफरेंट है। मगर पेयर ट्रेड अगर एग्री कमोडिटी जैसी मार्केट में किया जाए, जहां पर एक कंपोनेंट दूसरे पे डिपेंडेंट है, टोटली डिपेंडेंट है, दैट कैन गिव मोर वैल्यू टू द ट्रेडर। उससे हम कुछ ज्यादा कमाई की जा सकती है। इट इज मोर रिलायबल। उस तरह के डोमेन में इवन म्यूचुअल फंड्स में भी बहुत अभी क्षमता है कि वहां पर आर्बिट्राज प्रोडक्ट्स जो हैं वो अगर एग्री कमोडिटीज में या कमोडिटी मार्केट्स में लेकर के आए, तो हम काफी अच्छा निवेशक को अच्छा कोई रिटर्न दे सकते हैं। So these were my concluding remarks.
That's true. So one size doesn't fit all, and not necessarily, commodity markets or commodity regulators and intermediaries have to, copy the template from equities, but we should have our own plans, our own innovation, our own ideas. So I think this was a 360-degree perspective that our panelists have thrown in. But for one last word, I'll be back to Kavita Jha.
Hi, thank you, Pradeep. I think I'd like to, I feel very positive, when I hear a lot of different set of participants kind of show their enthusiasm, whether it is the funds, whether it is, say, our algo participant, or whether it is, say, someone who's been kind of connecting the physical markets with the financial markets, who's been a part of our panel here. I think all of them here are not only talking about trading, but also referring to a word called investing, which I think is very, very crucial when we are trying to resonate with the retail audience, when we are trying to resonate with even the institutional participants. So I feel that I think whether it is even the exchanges to a large extent have taken and are taking continuous efforts and measures to ensure that the risk aspects and the concerns that the investors have had from time and again are taken care of. We are extremely robust with our risk management skills. We are extremely robust in terms of a platform that we are offering, and we are ready to welcome these set of participants come in their full blown form and offer products that will cater to their requirements and the needs of the final end investor.
That's true. So, just to wrap up
So
this
thank you,
discussion.
Pradeep. I think that's all that I'd like to say.
Okay, thanks a lot. And thank you all the participants.
प्रदीप जी, आपकी परमिशन तो एक लास्ट 30 सेकंड्स का खाली मैं अपडेट बोलना चाहूंगा। जैसे कविता जी ने बताया, ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज इन्होंने टच किया कि जो हमारा एक्सचेंज मैकेनिज्म है स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का, या तो ओवरऑल इकोसिस्टम का जो रिस्क मैनेजमेंट मैकेनिज्म है, वो पिछले 10 साल पहले जो था और आज जो है उसमें बहुत अंतर आ गया है, बहुत ज्यादा रोबस्ट और बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग हो गया है। तो जो निवेशकों के लिए एक जो पहले एक माइंड में टेंशन रिस्क रहता था, या पुराने कुछ रीजन से जो एक भय निवेशकों के माइंड में बैठ गया था कि नहीं भाई कमोडिटी में तो कुछ भी हो सकता है, हमको कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है, कोई भी कुछ स्कैम हो सकता है, वो सब चीजें अभी बहुत हद तक चेंज हो चुकी है। और अभी जो मैकेनिज्म इकोसिस्टम है वो बहुत ही रिस्क मैनेजमेंट बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग है, बहुत रोबस्ट इकोसिस्टम है। तो कहने का मतलब है कि सर जिस हिसाब से निवेशक आज आमतौर पे इक्विटी मार्केट में निवेश करता है विदाउट एनी कंसर्न के मेरे को सेटलमेंट होगा कि नहीं, या मेरा पैसा सेफ है कि नहीं, इन्वेस्टमेंट रिस्क तो है ही, उसका नहीं बोल रहा हूं मैं, बट निवेश करने की जो प्रोसेस है उसमें, तो वो टाइप का एक बहुत बड़ा चेंज आ गया है कमोडिटी मार्केट में, जो माइट बी पिछले दशक में मतलब 10 साल पहले जो था और आज है उसमें बहुत बड़ा अंतर आ गया है। ये एक लास्ट थॉट मैं अपनी आज की कमोडिटी पाठशाला में निवेशकों के लिए खास तौर से बोलना चाहूंगा सर, कि आप आप वो हिसाब से ये सोच के चलिए कि जिस हिसाब से आपको पहले जो जोखिम लगता था निवेश करने में कमोडिटी मार्केट में, वो अब बहुत हद तक कंफर्टेबल हो गया, बहुत हद तक चेंज हो गया है। ये इम्पोर्टेंट चीज मैं बोलना चाहूंगा। थैंक यू।
बिल्कुल, बहुत सही बात है और ये बहुत ही जरूरी है। मे बी 20 years back, equities face the same scenario. To some extent, we used to have bad deliveries, fake share certificate and all, but times have changed. Technology has changed everything, and the pace at which all the markets are moving, maybe what equity markets has achieved over 20 years, commodities can achieve, 10 or maybe 5 years. With the help of all these stakeholders, if we all work together and come forward. Thanks a lot, gentlemen, for joining us. Thanks a lot, ma'am, also for joining us, and all the participants, all the viewers who have been watching this discussion. Thanks a lot. This is just a beginning. These discussions will evolve over a period of time, along with commodity markets and along with your participation. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.